We're talking about how to make love last today with Dr. Cassandra Bolar, and Angela and Julius Harris have some questions. Mrs. Harris, you go first.
My question is about our blended family. Yes. So as a blended family, of course, we experience some bumps in the road, but how can we kind of recreate culture? So after those mistakes, after there is a little bit of hurt here and there, but we do still have adult daughters at home part-time, but just recreating culture of kindness and love and reestablishing even a better foundation of trust.
Most definitely. You know, blended families have a complexity that nuclear families do not have. And so one thing is even in setting your expectation that it will be different and giving each other grace. And I think before you go in and direct, especially if you are the non-biological parent, you have to kind of establish a relationship with them that is full of care and concern. And so before you go to that level of correcting or directing, there has to be such a copious amount of caring first, and even having interest in the things that they have interest in. And so you're building that bond, you're building that positivity so that you have relational equity with them before you kind of go in to, you know, maybe guide and direct them, and that builds the trust.
I like that relational equity. That's good. You locked into that one too. Yes. I like that. Mr. Harris, your question.
Okay. Sometimes as men and being the head of the house, it's hard to accept, for me to accept constructive criticism without being on the defensive because of our pride. Is there a 1-2 step kind of formula that I can use to help myself receive what Angela is trying to tell me?
Yes, I think this is twofold. I think the first part of that is to assume good intentions. And I think sometimes when we are meeting with our partners and they have that constructive, you know, feedback, then we sometimes take it personally. But try not to take it personally. Think about how could this enhance how I show up as the best version of myself in the relationship. And I think also too, when we're providing that constructive feedback, we really want to speak to the good first. Speak to the margin of the good that person is doing first. I always say, if you have to serve them food that you know they probably don't want to eat, you want to set the table so nicely and you want to feed them with some good food first. And so speaking to the margin of good first before you have to give that feedback. And then, because what we're trying to do, we're trying to disarm them and we're trying to connect.
Which reminds me of how you used to talk about critiquing without crushing too. And I know that's something that you talk about in your planner, right?
Yes. You know, that critiquing without crushing is so critical because otherwise it won't get through. And what we're trying to do is to create those connections and create that culture and be very intentional. So a part of that culture, and even in your question, is being intentional. What do we want this culture to look like? Spell it out. I want it to be a harmonious culture of kindness, like literally write those things down.
And that's why you've got it journal format, right? So that you're really having some structured conversation. And what do you want to put in here? And what do you think a good date looks like? What do you think quality time looks like, right?
Most definitely. So this planner is more than just a planner. It's about creating a marital vision of success and what that means to you in 10 critical areas of your marriage. Things like finances, things like communication, because communication is the currency that's going to create the culture of your marriage, how it feels. Because those words, they have power. You know, death and life are in the power of the tongue. And so,
let me ask you this before, just a couple of seconds left. A takeaway for you, I could tell, was that relational equity.
The relational equity.
What about for you?
Being able to not feel like I'm being attacked, but her motives are good.
Good intentions.
Yes.
Good conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Bolar. Mr. and Mrs. Harris.
Thank you.
This was really good. Thank you for sharing your story. I know a lot of people can relate and will connect. Great advice as always. All right. We will be right back.